Sir, trustee.
Madam Mayor, kind of looking over the fee schedule that's proposed, it looks like it goes $100 per thousand, per 1,000 square feet. So anything over 100,000, it'll be a base of 1,500 plus $100 per 1,000 square feet over thereof, or something to that nature. So saying it's $100 for every 1,000 square feet over 100,000. So for 101,000, it'd be $1,600, for example. That would be my recommendation, to kind of keep with the current fee structure that we have proposed.
You get that?
I think it's $100 for every 10,000 square feet over.
Every 1,000 square feet, to keep with the pricing that we have up front.
Yeah, it's going 10,000. It's going
It's going by 1,000? Yeah, for every 1,000.
10,000 square feet.
For 1,000 square feet, yeah.
And the section, on section 8, you have here to insert section 817, amended to deleting in phase $100, section 817-05, $200, it looks like 200,000 up here. So take off 2 of the zeros. Just, it looks like 200,000 in section 8, everyone?
Section 8.
Yes. Section 2, it looks like 200,000, it's 200. Oh, section 8. Yeah, it's a typo. Okay. So, okay. That's the, now, when we talk about coin amusement devices, are we talking about various video machines, or what type of machines are we talking? I know they do have some in some people, some of the areas in industrial park. There are some for the company users. So, I don't know. What do you do with that, with their fees on that?
And this is one of the ordinances we discussed. And I know at least trustee Oscar Brown was one of the individuals looking for a separate fee for an arcade game as compared to video gaming terminals, which are video gaming terminals are terminals that are licensed by the state of Illinois. This is section 9 of the proposed ordinance. So I broke it down, it's broken down now into 2 sections. One is the fee for video gaming terminal. And under the ordinance, the video gaming terminal is that which is authorized by the board under the Video Gaming Act. And then a separate fee for a coin-operated amusement device of $25 per machine per year.
Okay.
So that's,
All right.
I don't know if those amounts are what the board is looking for, but it's separated. I think the 400 was in the ordinance when it was discussed last time for video
200 and 400.
But we separated it out to include separate fees for coin-operated amusement devices.
Right, here for the license fee, you have here a video game, scratched out 200, 400 to make it 20. To make it, it's $400, okay. Just $400 instead, it's $400 per machine, per year.
For video gaming terminals,
Right.
correct.
Okay.
You also
Yes.
have on that page 4 a typo on section 10, similar to the previous one.
The 100, I see.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and also down in section 12, you see the,
Yeah.
it's 20.00.00.
For 200. Okay, trustee Wilson?
I just have a question, and I might should know this. So, like in section 6, it specifies vending machines. In section 9, you can see that it's video gaming and coin-operated amusement park devices. But in section 7 and section 8, I'm not sure what it's for. So section 814.04, chapter 814 might be something specific. I just don't know it off the top of my head. So is there any way we can know what each of these fees are changing from?
Yeah, what I guess we didn't, there was a memo that was sent out before I think it must have been around March 12th, I don't know if that was the date of the meeting. A memorandum, we didn't, I don't think that was included in the package again. Section 81404 applies to barber shops and beauty shops.
Okay, so are we about to go through the whole thing? Because the ones that is not spelled out, I would just like to know what they are before we start charging more money.
Certainly, I could update the memo, send it out to all the trustees.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Could I make
Oscar Brown?
make a recommendation for the next draft of this ordinance? I would recommend that you place what is changing in bold, and so it's not a part of the actual language of the ordinance. So put section 1, I don't know, whatever section 1 is. Whatever section 1 is changing, just put that section 1, then dash, whatever is changing, so we'll know.
And use the asterisk on your Microsoft, that things that have changed, do scratch off, so you can just do one. It's in your toolbar to scratch off. And that way we'll see what you changed, and the new ones we have in bold. You have to do that work, so we put it in the okay? All right, any other questions, comments, input? What's your desire for this? Should it go on next agenda with the change and modifications, or you would like the?
I may suggest committee of the whole, since they still want to look at the different fees.
Okay.
And be able to compare them.
Committee of the whole, goes back to the committee of the whole, okay,
Because we need to see
right,
the variable also, what our competition is.
thank you. All right, this next one is ordinance of Village University Park relating to concussion injuries of sports activity. This is suggested by our trustee Wilson, her concerns with children, so this is her baby. The present for discussion is ordinance of Village University Park, North County related to concussion injuries or youth sports activities.
I would like to, just for a matter of format, I believe this needs to be placed in resolution format, just basically stating that the village supports this study that's done by the CDC. Trustee Wilson has put a lot of effort and time in wanting to present this, so I'll let her explain, but I would tell the board this most likely will be in resolution format saying that the Village University Park does support this standard.
And it will be on the next agenda. Okay. Trustee Wilson?
So, just for the board's information and the residents, I'm not a real big sports fan, but I remember when the guy was playing basketball and he fell and he messed up his teeth pretty bad. He had a concussion.
On cameras.
I'm sorry?
Oh,
His name was Austin Rivers of the LA Clippers. He had a traumatic head injury. Guy in Miami Heat, another one from Boston Celtics, Jaylen Brown. We've had a number of basketball players have traumatic head injuries, and they want to continue playing. But because professional sports have rules in place for how to treat a traumatic brain injury, they cannot, which is for the betterment of that player. All professional sports have rules and policies in place. All college level sports have rules and policies in place. And all high school levels of sports have rules and policies in place when it comes to traumatic brain injuries. The only level that doesn't is local neighborhood sports, community sports. And I know we can't force them to, but I would like, if we could, at least have them submit a document if they're going to be an organized community, organized sports venue in this community. At least submit every year that they have reviewed this traumatic brain injury information with the parents. Because whilst, we're not held to any regulations for these community sports, a kid could have a brain injury and the coach not recognize it, or since nothing's in place, they may say keep playing. Where we review these statistics and information, what is a concussion, to parents and team moms and dads and other coaches and residents, then somebody will recognize, hey, this kid could possibly have a concussion and he needs to be treated as such, and not continue to ask, force, or volunteer to play, because you can have a concussion and still want to play. So if each sport can submit annually, we come up with a form, and they submit this and say, yes, we gave this information to all of our parents. That's the kind of information I would like put in a resolution or whatever it is. But I think they should be, we can't force them, but every other level of sports, for all sports, have rules and policies in place when it comes to traumatic brain injuries. And that's what's the history behind this. I sent a lengthy email to the board. I just want the board for their information to see where I was coming from. Okay. So, attorney, that's kind of where I was going for with this resolution.
Yes, sir.
A little bit more than just recognizing that the village supports it, but holding some of the sports teams accountable. We have baseball, basketball, football, wrestling. So there's different. Our kids are at risk, and I would like it to be taken care of or addressed.
Okay.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I didn't know who was sponsoring this on tonight's agenda, but I am Heads Up certified. I am a safety coordinator. It is an 8-hour class. I've been certified for 5 years now. Every year, football coaches who are at least in the Illinois Valley Youth Football Tackle League, all of us are Heads Up certified. So actually this that the mayor just displayed, this is in our handbook. This is the basic protocol for the parents, but for the majority, I would say that Trustee Wilson, I don't know if the Lions organization is Heads Up certified. If they are, that is a plus. What the Village of Monee did, Jay Fakwa, was that how you say it? Fakwa, okay. He was the lightweight assistant coach, and he also was certified. But what he did is that he just told the Monee Mavericks that we would like pretty much what you just said, every coach to be certified in football, Heads Up certified in football. I was asking the Illinois Valley president, youth football president, to come tonight because this is a concern. Let me just say this. If the Dave Durison bill passed, it will knock out youth football. That means there won't be no more, yes, tackle football. There will be no more Lions. There will be no more Mavericks. And the reason why is that the lower levels, there's a mandate of having 4 to 5 levels. So, I just want us to make sure that we understand the impact that we have here. Not only that it would affect our community, but it would affect Creek-Monee High School. So, me, myself, I just want to say I have, compared when I was younger, I didn't catch I had 4 concussions. But this was after the age of 19, and we're talking about hockey, and I played goaltender. I am the one to say I'm okay, but then that headache, oh God, it's a headache when it really comes around. So if, Madam Mayor, if you want, or anyone, I have books and books of this, but I was a little confused. I didn't see the email, Trustee Wilson. Other than that, I would have told you I am the safety coordinator for the Monee Mavericks, in which my job is to make sure that if a kid goes down, my job is to go and make sure the coach is doing all the protocols according to this in our training.
Well, and this is exactly why I brought it to the village. We don't have any protocols in place to say you have to each sport, because it's not just football, right? We saw several basketball players have some serious concussions. And so each sport should have something in place. If it's a safety coordinator or the coaches that will be at each game, but something in place to say, hey, because even if the policy or law comes out about they can't play football, tackle football anymore, there's still other sports that kids can get concussions. Baseball, they can easily get hit in the head with a ball or bat. Basketball, if they fall and hit their head, so, okay.
Can I be recognized?
Cheerleading, because they're in the way. Oh, and the tumbles, right.
Okay.
So just something put in place, because we don't, even if the football is taken out, the other sports, kids are still subject to concussion.
Thank you.
Excuse me,
Muller.
Trustee Brooks, there's something I didn't know about you, and I appreciate you explaining that, right? I've been with you for so long, man, I didn't know that aspect. But listen, isn't it required, who required you to go to classes in reference to this concussed type of activity? And if so, why doesn't University Park have that same mandate in their little JV football and that sort of thing?
Well, I'll say this, trustee. I do believe that is the Will Cook League. I do believe that they may be heads up certified. Majority of this was the campaign. Actually, last year the NFL came out to our dinner, the banquet they have. This is something that they are really pushing, and I believe it's more towards tackle football, and I do see Trustee Wilson's point. If the Will Cook League, because I know our director, Gary, is a coach too, he's also heads up certified. If the Will Cook League is mandated that their coaches are heads up certified, I really don't think the village should get, it's really nothing for us to really put our foot in, although I don't know if your baseball program has the same type of, protocol, but heads up certified, the NFL went to pretty much every organization that had youth football, because that seemed to be the center focus of when it comes to concussions, because it was to a point that those wannabe coaches taught kids to hit straight into a person. That would rock a child's head, the brain shakes, next thing you know, that night he's throwing up, parents don't know why. Now we teach them to come underneath, tackle, bring them down, you avoid the helmet all the way around. So that teaching, and I would say, if we can reach out to the Lions and see at minimum, if the Lions organization is heads up certified, I mean, I do understand the resolution that Trustee Wilson wants to do, but I will say that I don't know much about baseball and basketball having the concussion as an issue. I will say in football, it is definitely an issue, but majority of the organizations around here have addressed the issue by forcing us coaches to become heads up certified. In high school, they have a trainer, so that's already taken care of. But in youth sports, they are requesting us to not be that wannabe.
So it's already probably in place.
It's probably already in place. That's pretty much what it is. Trustee.
University Park. Right.
If the Lions is head up certified, my point is I don't think the board has to worry about it unless the baseball. And again, we should start talking about statistics. That's the reason why the Ivy League president was going to come tonight, so that the board would not be misinformed, because it's becoming misinformed. You can get a concussion going out here right now and bumping your head on the ground. So, but we're talking about the level of activity, Madam Mayor.
Just a second. Trustee Wilson, you finished?
Yeah.
Trustee, yeah, one more, and then Trustee, sorry.
So, either Chief Village Manager Pate will forward the information, or I will forward the information. My information comes from CDC, and CDC itself lists potential sports, just some of the sports that have serious potential for concussions include baseball, hockey, lacrosse, wrestling, football, soccer, volleyball, and cheerleading. So this comes from the CDC, not from Trustee Wilson.
Trustee
So-
Wilson? No, I just said, hold on.
So that's what I'm saying, the ordinance to cover all of university park sports. And the ones that come to mind, because we have these, are baseball, wrestling, football, and cheerleading.
Trustee
So-
Allen? Yeah, yes, we do.
Yes.
Trustee?
These are the sports that we currently have. And on local levels, it's not mandated anywhere, anyplace. If, where Mayor Farquhar was, if they did it, that's great. If that football team league does it, that's great. But all of the football leagues on local levels in the state of Illinois do not mandate that.
Okay, Trustee Lee.
That he
has
certified.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, Trustee Lee. Okay.
Yeah, I want to thank Trustee Wilson for bringing this to our attention, because I go way back. When I started playing football, I wore a leather helmet. My first helmet was a leather helmet, and I was so happy when I finally got me a Riddell suspension helmet. But I've been knocked out a few times in football, in track and field, and when I was in the martial arts, in karate. So what we need to have, and I don't think we should apologize for anything, is to have a mandatory concussion protocol program. And that simply means that, because if you look at the professional teams, particularly the football teams, if you are suspected of having a concussion, you have to be examined by a physician before you can go back into the game. Then you have to go through a certain, and if they hold you out of the game because you do have a concussion, then you have to go through a protocol program where you're limited as to what you can do athletically until all of the signs of concussion protocol are eliminated. So I think we need to have that for all sports.
Yes.
For all sports, particularly for sports that are sponsored by the village
Exactly.
or that we support. Football, baseball, hockey, like I said, back in the day, when we was pole. And I went to camp and we were broad jumping, but we were broad jumping on hay. And I broad jumped on hay, my feet went from underneath me, and I hit my head up. The next thing I knew, when I realized what was going on, I was playing cards in a cabin. I had a case of amnesia, and I had the same thing in football, and I don't remember what happened in between that. Maybe that's why I'm so goofy now. All of hits to the head, right? Exactly. So, I think we need to have a concussion protocol program, and we could probably come up with a model that all the athletics programs can use, regardless, because again, you can get hurt in gymnastics, you can get hurt in karate and so forth. I got kicked in the head a few times. And then we as part of that resolution, we ought to have in there to encourage the best available equipment, protective equipment possible. Because now they've gone from from the old leather helmets. I'm glad I don't go back where they didn't wear helmets, but they've got a much more helmets that are a lot more safe now to give. And they're coming and working on other things, so that we should encourage them to have the best available helmets. And even if you're biking or something like that, the kids should be wearing a helmet, that kind of. They're skateboarding, they should be wearing, helmets. So it would be an encouraging factor, even though it's not necessarily an organized sport, but it'd be something out there that I think would be great for all of the people in our community.
Thank you. All right. So we're going to have them on the next board agenda as a resolution. Does everyone agree with that?
Yes.
Yes, that will go. All right, now, my baby. Okay. The discussion, well, that's a resolution. Discussion 584, discussion ordinance authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement by and between the Village University Park, Cook and Will counties of PACE, the suburban bus division of RTA for the use of PACE vehicles. I have here a handout We tried this a few years ago, and, excuse me, here, I'll pass it down. The first thing I did when I became mayor was to make sure of the upgrade of the bus shelters. The bus shelters is just terrible, and it's, I can't think of his name right now, a blind gentleman in the village. He sits on the board. What is his name? Jamal. And I have to give him kudos for that. He brought that to my attention because he sits on the board in Washington Township on Pace Board. And I told him I'll meet with them, and we did meet, and we brought new shelters in the Village University Park, and it was beautiful. I was very, very happy. At no cost to the village, they rebuilt these shelters. Then I asked, you know, since you're gonna ask the question, you go for the gusto, right? So I asked for garbage cans, which they did do, and then I found out about the advertisement. The advertisement that they put on the side, if you notice, I made an agreement that they could put everything besides tobacco and alcohol advertisement because of our children. They have been so kind to do that, and we do get at first it was $1,500, we get $941 per shelter, okay? And then they agreed, because I say we don't have one in Rosedale, we don't have one in Farmville, we don't have one on Cicero. So they said that they would bring us 3 more additional ones. So that will increase our revenue. That's all free revenue, people, that come to our village and give us fundings. And with that, I asked them to earmark the money that we get these checks. The first check we received years ago was $14,000, another was $7,000. Unfortunately, at the time and period of me being the mayor, my hands were tied. And I don't know to this day where those funds came. I asked them to be earmarked. I don't know where they put them. I think they might have been put in general funds. But it should have been earmarked for this purpose, for this project, so that we could have some buses. Now, we've got them, and unfortunately, and I'm glad that they're still with us, because it hardens me, the fact that they shattered these shelters, bust them up repeatedly, and they still came out and repaired them. They could have said, you know, Mayor, I'm tired, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore. For them to bring us state-of-the-art shelters like they have downtown Chicago, we have the same shelters. And I don't know what's wrong, why they retaliate on our shelters, because one year the police officers stopped me, and it was raining, pouring down raining, and I thought about Jamal. They bust that first shelter right here by the village hall, and I was out there sweeping it up, and they didn't know who I was, and the police officer said, Mayor, what are you doing? It was embarrassing, very embarrassing, that they would come and just tear the shelters up like that. Why are you doing it? I remember one trustee didn't want it and said that the lights would be beaming in someone's home. Remember that one, trustee? And didn't want the shelters, and I said they're going to be here anyway. So we got the shelters, and I'm happy about that. So now we want to move to another level by bringing buses. And I had them here. They brought the buses here at the town hall at a board meeting one year. And you remember that, Trustee Williams? I remember one of the trustees wanted to be a driver. We said, no, you can't. And the agreement with that was they would bring these buses. We only want to do a pilot program with 2 buses to see how it would work. I did a survey with Industrial Park. They were so happy they didn't know what to do. They said that they would work with us and they would buy passes for the people to go back and forth. And that was helping a lot of people in University Park. What I hand out today was some tips on the benefits of it, how we could get it, and what it would do for the village. They yell about our children. They say our kids have nothing to do in the summer. We were going to do a pilot program to have 2 buses. One would go throughout University Park into Industrial Park and then go to Chicago Heights Connect. The other one would go through University Parkway and hit with South Chicago, go to Park Forest to get out of University Park. That way, if you have a 1-car family or a 2-car family, you would still be able to get, even if your car broke down, you would have some transportation. Currently, our transportation stops on Saturdays at 6:45. We have no way to get in and out of our village. And some people would love to be here, but they say the transportation is not good. So with that said, they would train the people, they would give it, and then they would have us to put our own bus stop. They told us we could have it 24 hours a day, and we were only going to do with 2 buses. And I thought, as we were looking at the funding would come from the buses, the money that we get from the shelters, and the fees that we get from people collecting the riding So when we did the survey, everybody was 100% for it. I've taken a lot of people home at 11 o'clock at night coming from that bus, from that train station. And it's dangerous for them, and there's no other way but a cab. And these cabs, this one cab company had a really bad reputation. And I mean, one lady was calling in the back seat of the car while he was taking her somewhere to rape her. She was screaming on her phone. Thank God she had her cell phone. But that's just dangerous. And they were charging us about $7 to $10 where you pay $2 to go to the train, the same distance. And some people are dangerously walking. So just to try to protect our people and make it nice, PACE has come out here, and I know I've talked to some of my colleagues here on the board, and they love it. And the question was the money, and I thought maybe we could be creative in this, and I would have PACE, Jessica, because she comes to the planning meeting with me every Tuesday, the first of the month, and she would come out here and explain it like she did before, and Mary, and they're doing this. We'd have our own bus with our own logo on it, and it would still say PACE, but we would only get 2. We wouldn't get a whole slew of buses. That's crazy. We have to try it out first to see if it works. And at the $100 a year, one of the shelters would pay for the bus. We wouldn't have to come out of our general funds for anything.
Are we still getting revenues from the shelter?
Yes, we are.
So it's,
Do we have to pay the driver? Our drivers, we would try to use someone that's here. I'm sorry, Trustee Williams.
Why don't PACE bring their bus out here like they have everywhere else?
They do, they have a limit. Every village has a limit of time when they come to our villages. Every village, they have their schedules and they stop. They've been coming out here the same schedule since I've been out here for over 20 years.
I know, don't you think that they should grow?
They cannot, the budgetary, Jessica and Mary can come, like I said, I'll have them to come do a workshop. They can't afford it. But we could afford it. That would help us to afford it. Now, other villages have done it, and it's working beautifully. And they're getting the revenues. And the residents are very happy because they have a bus now. But it's a lot of people out here, and our kids could have part-time jobs. They'd have a way to get there because they had a bus to come back and forth on. Trustee Wilson?
I'm sorry. Does PACE provide for park force?
Yes, they do.
Chicago PACE?
Some of them have a $1 ride.
I don't understand why they won't help us.
No, they have a limit as well. Park Force does not have 24-hour buses.
So they do get, back and forth around and everything.
But look where they're connected to. They're closer to Scott Heights than we are as well.
I think
Yes,
this is
Trustee,
a great
just a second.
benefit
Just a
for the
second. She
residents.
had it on. Trustee Wilson? Yes, Trustee Wilson? And then Trustee Brooks?
I thought we discussed all this before, and a lot of questions came up, so we voted. I thought to do a workshop, have the person come out, do a workshop to make a plan for. It was table 2, a workshop.
Okay.
So we just have to schedule a workshop and then have all our questions answered.
Okay. Trustee? I'm sorry, Trustee McClellan.
I think it would be an added benefit to the residents of University Park, so I think we should